taxes!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 59 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hi guys.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
Today we'll be talking about season 3, episode 12 of 911 Lone Star, titled Negative Space. And as always, but especially now, we have a lot to talk about. So I want to hop into it.
Literally.
And we start back right after the pig's body is found, so it's direct continuation of last episode ish. And guess who's back?
Gabriel.
Yay.
Oh my god. I was
I
so
was
excited to
yes.
see him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So excited. Like I literally was like, Gabriel. Oh my god. Like
Yeah. I
there've
was
been
too.
like there've been so many hints that he would be in either this episode or the next one. And I was just like, I don't know if those are true, but if it are, I'm gonna be very excited.
Well, I think
I
Nito tweeted or posted on Instagram a couple weeks ago, a picture of his like something about Gabriel's back or something like that, and it was him in uniform. And I'm like, I wonder how long ago that was. So
Yeah.
yay! I'm glad he's back.
Happy about it. Yeah. No, it as soon as we got Andrea in what was it, 3-4? I was like, okay, with Gabriel. Give Gabriel.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, we
I'm
haven't
like-
seen them all yet.
He rocked this episode. Okay, like I think this might be my favorite episode with him in it. So
312, just saying.
They have a thing.
this
I
is
love
a
it.
thing. Please continue this being a thing, but I'd also like to see him more.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I love it. Anyway, so Gabriel, yay, rocking the Ranger thing. And so he's asking Owen questions like, when they realized an intruder was in the house, like who has access to the house, all the general
Mhm.
stuff.
Can I just say that, like, when Gabriel asked that question about who has access to the house, and Owen says, "My son, TK," I'm thinking, I would think by now Gabriel knows that TK is your son.
I would hope so.
I was kind of thinking, okay, they're kind of in a professional space. So yeah, saying that for the record, but also, yeah, he sort of knows who your son is.
He has
A
to
little
ask.
bit.
We get it. We get
Yeah,
it.
I just
but
thought it was
it's funny. Could have
Yeah.
just said my son, and not like my
Right.
son TK or TK.
Yeah, he could have
said
just one or
TK.
the other.
One or the other, not both. And being like Mateo, the landlady.
Exactly.
I think he forgot somebody.
He
which
didn't
was
say
kind of-
Mateo. Mateo, but
But I
Mateo
thought
was
he did
standing
say
right
Mateo.
there.
No, he did. He said Mateo, my
he
son
did?
TK, the landlady.
Yeah, I think that's when we first see the Mateo standing there, but I'm not actually sure. And then they talk, and then he asks, like, if they think it has to do with the attack on the Capitol, attack, cornstarch, all that good stuff. And Catherine points out how the word in the letter and on Owen's wall is toxic,
Mm-hmm.
which, I think I pointed out. One of us pointed out last podcast. So I like Gabriel saying, well, it could be a coincidence because I turn out to believe in those. And I'm like, yeah.
Yes,
Especially
I love
when
Gabriel's comment.
dead.
That was good.
I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of feel like Carlos is also like that.
Uh-huh.
I feel like he's also got that. I think that's a general mindset. I have the same mindset, but I almost feel like it's a cop mindset. Like coincidences kind of aren't a thing.
Tina kind of isn't a fan of him either. Like she doesn't really, from what I've seen. She's
Yeah.
like that. I think she said even that there's no such thing as a coincidence.
I
Mhm.
don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know how I feel on it. I mean, I kind of agree.
There are some times where it genuinely is a coincidence, but I feel like erring on the side of caution and thinking it isn't is a fairly good way to go.
I'm
Yeah.
the kind of person when you see somebody taking all the same turns as you get suspicious. So I'm like, that can't be a coincidence.
Right.
So I'm just like, what's happening?
Yeah.
I read that like if you take three right turns, or 4 right turns, they'll take you in a circle. And so if the person takes all those turns with you, they're following you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I
But,
think that way.
I'm not sure if the logic is fully sound, like just regarding streets and connections and stuff, but still, I think it's fair. Anyway, just Gabriel's on the right track. Anyway, so he, oh boy, he asks if they can think of anyone who might be angry enough to do something like this.
Owen.
Owen's response, like, really?
No, I'm a fairly
figure.
blunt figure.
How many
I-
enemies?
Right.
Mateo's like, Catherine's like, if TK was there, he'd be like, and it was
And
like,
Carlos
what?
would do. It's like, seriously?
TK
Yeah.
would be like, Dad.
He's like,
And
And
Owen's
glare
like,
at him.
what?
so the guy he punched in the bar, but Gabriel thinks he means Billy.
Yeah. Oh, you mean
And they're
Deputy
like, "No,
Chief
Billy
Tyson?
did."
And Catherine's like, you punched Deputy Chief Tyson?
Well,
He's like,
And
oh,
then
we're fine
Mateo-
now.
And then Mateo mentions O'Brien, and she's like, "You punched a police officer," and Gabriel's like, "You punched a police officer."
He was not in a uniform at the time. He was in a uniform, but
Which
it was
he-
a jersey. It was a jersey.
It was
it was a
Jersey, it was Jersey.
jersey.
So like people Owen's punched. Michelle's sister's ex-boyfriend, Billy, Griffin, O'Brien, Griffin again, but that goes like
Random guy.
later.
The
You
bar.
guys like that I made a list. I had to.
Yes, thank you for making that list. That way we can
Yes.
lay it off. And my conclusion is that Owen needs to find somewhere else for anger management because clearly it hasn't worked.
Point. Yeah. And then Owen, I like how Owen mentioned Griffith, and Gabriel's like, he starts telling him about what happened in up
Is it
north
Griffin or Griffin? Is it
Griffin.
Griffin. And then even Gabriel's like, yeah, I heard about that. He's like, he's a bad hombre. He's just working for the
Mhm.
cartels. And and Owen's like, yeah, but he's in jail for murder. And then Gabriel's face was like, about that.
About that.
And then Owen's like, what? And then it's like they cut to it. I'm like, dude, really? Like, I'm just
It's the perfect
Zoom
way.
yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I'm just like, I just kept waiting for someone to freeze. I
That was
thought that would have been
interesting.
the perfect time for it. to happen.
I mean, I get why they did it because it'd
Yeah.
be a lot easier because then you don't have to have like a court set.
right.
'Cause otherwise, they're back in court. Come on now. But like, they just work perfectly for the show.
It worked, and
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. Maybe some things are still being done Zoom or something. Maybe some preliminary hearings. I don't know. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing, but like, considering that everything else is being done like
Well, TV world, like,
over,
it doesn't really like,
is basically pre-COVID now. In
yeah. Well,
TV world, we're back to normal. So
yeah, exactly what I was just about to say. Like, TV world, like, everything is normal.
Mhm.
Like, and
and not
stuff.
even the real world's normal anymore. But TV could
Good point.
only do real world stuff so long before people stop seeing it as an escape.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the goal of TV, is kind of being an escape, draw people in from the real world. So when you're doing real world, that kind of thing. But so yeah, we see the hearing, and again, I just kept waiting for something to freeze. And I'm
Yeah.
actually a little disappointed it didn't. But then we see the 126
Watching the video recording. Yeah.
I actually did not catch that they were watching the recording. I just
Oh.
thought that, like, when I think about it, oh yeah, they were, but my brain then didn't connect. I thought we were just how
yeah.
it went. But now that I
Yeah.
think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, we were seeing them watch
Yeah,
it.
because Owen closed the screen, and then
That's right.
he's like, that happened a month ago, and 2 days later he was discharged or released.
Yeah, and Marjan,
and
like,
Marjan's
the
just like,
second
are you kidding?
yeah, the second he closed it, she's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, same."
And then
And-
Owen hands out those flyers. Like, if you see him, like, call the police. And she's like, what are we going to do? Put up the flyers like he's a lost cat?
She's got a point.
She's got a point, guys. She does.
She does. She does.
But like, again, they can't do anything else than that. It's
Right.
not like he escaped. Like,
Yeah, charges.
yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, and they even said, I think Paul mentioned it, that since the charges were dropped, Owen and Marjan and everybody, nobody was notified that he was released.
They don't
because
have
they aren't
to
going
be.
to do
They
that.
don't have to. Yeah, they don't have to because it never went to trial or anything like that. So it's how they didn't know about it. And then all of a sudden this starts happening. So you start thinking like, he's
You-
playing around.
Yeah, can you imagine if like they hadn't found out from Gabriel and then one day randomly Marjan just sees him? Can you imagine how that would have gone down?
That would have been bad.
I don't think Griffin would have made it out alive. Just saying.
Probably not.
Marjan would have absolutely blown her stack.
She could have
Um,
kicked his ass, that's for sure.
Oh, she could have.
Mhm.
No, I mean, we definitely know she can take care of herself. But
Right.
so yeah, they kind of have to leave it there because there's not much else they can do. But again, don't approach, call the police. Is kind of what Owen is saying. And
Mhm.
point, seeing as a lot of people there would want to kick his ass.
Right.
Marjan and no one being first and foremost.
I could see the two of them doing it together. That's the thing, like trying to kick his ass.
Oh yeah. The one
image I
thing about
have.
him is that originally I think they go in like tell us one wallop and it's fine, but then they find that he should not be afraid to play dirty and that kind of thing. So I think that could go into a very interesting sports session. No, we don't get to see that. Though I do have a feeling if we did see it, we'd see someone getting shot. So maybe not.
Right.
It's not.
Moving on. So we go to the DNR call, which I absolutely forgot was in this episode.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in this episode.
I absolutely forgot it was going to be here, and so like that's fun.
It was very minuscule compared to what I thought it was, which I feel like that's happened recently with other episodes where like it wasn't a huge deal. I mean, it definitely was a deal, but
it was big. It was one of the two main storylines, but.
So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, because I mean I read the synopsis, but I don't often it doesn't always click. Have you noticed that a lot of the times the synopsis has to do with the smallest portion of the story? Because like this was the big sentence on this was like Nancy makes a bad call or something on the on a call or something and has to deal with the repercussions or whatever, and like that was like most of the description.
Yeah, and it basically what was said in the synopsis is what happens. Like they said that like she like basically ignored a DNR and she has to face repercussions. So we kind of already knew, and people were like, when I was talking about it, people were like, well, maybe give her the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't just be like judge it. But my intuitions and just how the synopsis laid everything out were right.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you think back to the plane thing too, they also brought that up, and even Ronan was like, oh yeah, it's not as big as like it's not the biggest part of the episode, but like the plane was kind of big part of their stuff. But yeah, so we first see Sister calling 911 saying something's wrong and that her sister isn't answering her door, and so Carlos is there first. He's not busting in yet. And then the 126 team arrives, so just the paramedics. But as they're not getting a response, Carlos kicks in the door, and I'm just there like, that was hot.
I know. I'm like, how did TK like manage to stay professional? Because that was a good call. Oh man. Well, and I think too it was weird because like when Carlos got there first, he's knocking on the door, and as a police officer, you can't enter residence without permission unless you can hear a sound of distress. So even the sister freaking out outside was not enough for him to enter the residence. So when Tommy got there as captain, she was able to make the call to like, okay, she's not answering. I need to get in there as a paramedic. And so then Carlos was able to. But yes, that was very hot. Like Rafa. Ooh. God. I wonder how many takes that took.
It was probably just like them doing it over and over until like,
Moving on.
I know we could sit on this for a few minutes, but
yeah, we could.
Just a moment of appreciation for Rafael Silva.
For Poppy,
yes, deserves appreciation. Okay, moving on.
People were worried that Carlos and TK wouldn't see each other on calls anymore when TK became a paramedic.
They were standing right next to each
still
other.
go on calls, right?
TK also went outside, and Carlos was outside too when Nancy and Tommy were inside. So,
because guys, remember that there are more medical calls than there are fire calls. So technically, paramedic team goes on far more calls than the fire truck.
Yeah.
Even though fire truck does accompany paramedics on certain calls. But like here, for example, we only have the paramedic team. So remember, technically more calls, more opportunities for them to see each other. Police are on basically every scene. So anyhow, we get in, we find the sister on the floor. I did not see the bracelet immediately, but I apparently it was visible. I just didn't see it because it was very.
I didn't see it until the third time I watched this episode.
Yeah,
I only watched this once, so.
Yeah, I watched the clip back, and I didn't see it the first couple of times I watched the clip back.
But
I did see it.
The thing you can argue about it is the bracelet is visible, but it also looks like your traditional bracelet. It doesn't look like a medical alert. It's very like. It's like kind of like one of those like if you wanted to look cute, like look like jewelry kind of bracelet. It's not actually like a medical alert, so it was harder to see.
Right, because traditionally a medic alert is like this big honking like piece of like, I don't know, almost like a dog tag with the big medic alert logo on one side, and then on the other side it has information on it. This one was looked like a very dainty bracelet, all in silver, and the etching was very faint. So if you didn't look directly at it and like right up close, you probably wouldn't have seen that.
Not at first glance in any case, and so they find, she doesn't have a heartbeat, she's not breathing, but they do find that she still has electricity in her heart, so she's shockable. And so they shock her, she comes back first try, wakes up, and she's clearly not happy. But I would like to say, before they shock her, Nancy's frozen for a moment.
Yeah.
And like, obviously not anyone in the show knows what's happening, but like, she's seen this bracelet as soon as you know that this bracelet exists. She froze because of that. And so like during the episode, I'm just like, I'm waiting for that to come out that she actually did see, because we know she saw. We know that's why she froze. But so she goes ahead, does it anyway. And so the woman's upset when she wakes up and she tells him, I have a DNR. You shouldn't have done that.
And she tells the sister, like, that, like, too.
And that's one point, is that the sister definitely could have stopped them. But, like, I think the point I made, like, when we were watching this was that, family isn't always most dependable to follow those wishes because they just want their loved ones back. And I think this is definitely the case for the sister.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
like, that's nothing to mess around with. Like I've had like family members that had DNRs, and you know what happened? They were respected. They're in place for a reason. You don't disrespect somebody's wishes. If you do, that's just selfish.
You're literally just saying it yourself. You can try and say you're thinking of the other person. You're not. If you're thinking of the other person, you think what they want. And so, that is kind of something you can never argue that you're thinking.
Yeah, and if the person has a DNR, it means they've made the decision of sound mind, and the wishes need to be respected. Now, like literally, if they hadn't seen, like she wasn't wearing it at the time,
that's a whole nother
matter. And the sister, she didn't offer up that information because she was distraught and nervous and scared and upset. And she's the last person to be sharing information. And she probably did it on purpose because she didn't want them to just let her go, because she didn't want to let her sister go.
Right. Yeah.
But as her sister, knowing she has a DNR, she should have respected her sister's wishes, which she didn't. And that's where the whole ball of wax comes in, because of the situation we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's definitely, if you want to talk blame, there's definitely plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
definitely.
She definitely did have a part to play in it because she did not say anything.
Exactly. And like TKA had went outside to like set up the gurney or something like that, and so did Carlos went outside to do whatever, and then they walked back into all of this, and like they like this is when she had said that she has a DNR, and TK's like, as in do not resuscitate, and Tommy's just like, we know what it means. And I'm just like, oh,
like, because like at this point I get why she's saying it like that, because it's like, oh crap, we're in trouble now, like this just went bad.
And the woman's just like, oh, do you? And like, she has every right to be mad. I get it. And like One Star posted something, I believe, like today, that was like, oh, we feel so bad for Nancy. And I'm just like,
no, Nancy made the wrong call.
And it's funny because all the comments were like saying the same thing, like being like, oh, we feel so bad. And then somebody commented, I actually commented to them, because they were like, no, like I forget exactly word for word what they said. They were like, no, I don't feel bad because like she obviously ignored somebody's wishes. And I'm like, exactly, like I agree. Like,
she made that choice, and in making that choice she took someone else's away.
Like it was a selfish choice to make.
It's the same thing that happened with Paul, but except for one key difference, he didn't have his legally marked down.
Right.
She did. And so like no one was actually in the wrong with Paul. It just was a sucky situation. Because he felt violated. This woman actually was very much violated.
Yeah, especially since she was a cancer patient and she
was in pain all the
was in
time. Honestly,
pain.
she
Like,
made this decision because she's like, let me go. I don't want to be in pain anymore. And oh,
Mhm.
great. Now, because of someone else's selfishness, she does. She doesn't get to go. She has to stay and grow worse. So, like, I'm not saying I don't understand where Nancy was coming from, because of course I do. It's hard to see others in pain, but you
Mhm.
don't get to make that choice.
Right. You don't
Right.
get to play God in this. She made the
Yeah.
choice.
Precisely.
yeah, like I get what was going through her mind. I wouldn't do the same thing, but I do get that. But I also
Mhm.
like that's not excusable. Like
Right.
no, it's not. Like I don't agree.
As much as it would have been like sucky to see her leave the show or something, she would have had everything would have been right for her to have lost her like right to practice at that point, because she
Mm.
made a big screw up.
Right. If this was real life, she would have lost her job. No questions
She would
asked.
have, should have,
And
that
yeah.
kind of thing. And obviously, we don't want that to happen. But like, you know what? You make your bed and you gotta lie in it. And she made her
Mhm.
bed in this case. So, you know. But yeah, that I think that establishes pretty early on how we feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like we definitely had that
We
straight
definitely did.
answer for you. And I think a lot of people are kind of like most people are on the same page. Like they know like
Yeah.
that shouldn't have happened.
That should not have. And you know, if you're ever struggling, all I do is urge you to put yourself in that situation, kind of like I did with Paul. Put yourself in that situation, imagine that kind of violation,
Right.
and then maybe rethink some things.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
Yeah, and I know there are ways to get around a DNR for certain situations, and there's ways of like, if the family had felt like the woman who was sick wasn't in sound mind when she made that decision, like they could take it to court and, change it, but that didn't seem like the case here. The woman was clearly aware of what she was making a decision on, so they couldn't, pull that as like, oh well, this, yeah, so
Yeah, that'd be a shitty thing to do. I don't know. I just I'm not very
See,
I don't like
anyone could
that.
argue that line because they think that their view on things, which is, you should live, is the sound mind decision. So obviously she couldn't have been in her sound mind kind of thing.
right.
That's bullcrap. I'm pretty sure most, if not all, people are in their sound mind to have to make a legal decision like that, because that's legal. That's not just, you don't just go buy a bracelet like that anywhere. That's legal. You've got it down in writing. You got everything filed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can really make that decision easily when you're not, because someone's going to notice something's not quite right.
Right.
Somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So now that we've done that, so here we get to an interesting part.
Yeah.
Marshall and Paul.
I
go with that.
I really like this scene though, because I just do like
I like parts of it. I do.
Okay,
I turned off half the scene. I muted half the scene just simply because of secondhand embarrassment.
See, I didn't get that with this. Like, I forget
did.
what. I don't remember. There was something happened recently that did. I can't remember what it was. So, not this though. I just really liked it, but like, I just like them going to the grocery store to get supplies for the hang at TK and Carlos's, and then Paul
More affirmation. That's it's a regular thing. Yay.
Mhm.
Yay. And Paul being
Can we see it more?
Yeah, can we see more? And then
Exactly.
Paul, and
Every
then,
time we see it, something happens.
yeah, uh-huh.
Can we just see it as general?
Can we just see it? Well, like shit coming up after, or like bombs being dropped. Thank you.
Precisely.
But then Paul be looking around, being like, "Why are we across town?" And it's like, this
Right.
is Parmesan we're talking about. So then, moments later, the sheriff walks in. And Paul's like, "Oh no way, no way!" And Marjan's just like, just look at him breathing free air. It's disgusting. And Paul is just like, how did you even find them? And of course she says she paid $50 for a background check to get his address, and she followed him here. And I'm like, Marjana is going full buck.
Yep.
Full stalker buck.
Yes. And like then like the sheriff dude, I mean he's not a sheriff anymore, but like that's what we're gonna call him.
He's like a shopping, like a grocery store security guard.
And so he is helping an old lady with her groceries, and Marjan's like, that's enough, and walks up to him. And then she's like, murderer. Oh my god. Like I don't know why I like it so much. It's just like, I mean, I might do the same thing, but not as dramatic.
And then Paul following her, trying to reason with her, full buck, and I'm just like, yeah, so he's going full buck, and Paul's going like somewhere in between Hen and Eddie.
Uh-huh. But
Like,
Yeah,
just like
about
parallels
right.
here. We're
that sounds
having
about
like
right.
the
But then
one that is kind of in their right mind, trying to reason with the one person who's just like, bitch, I'm gonna fuck someone
I
else.
get where she's coming from a little bit more than some of the things
Absolutely.
Buck does, but also it's just
That's
like
true.
it's interesting because then she storms into the store and makes some announcement like on the intercom thing, and is like, attention shoppers, it may interest you to know that this establishment has hired a security guard, a murderer who murders.
I'm just there like, what?
that
You don't say.
that man there, Roy Griffin, disgraced Kirk County sheriff deputy, has murdered at least one man in cold blood. I know this because I witnessed it, so you may want to consider purchasing your fresh veggies, frozen waffles, personal hygiene products someplace else. So long as murder guy is working the front door. Now, excuse me while I drop this mic. And Paul's face is just like, I am so embarrassed.
That's why this is the first time hearing what she actually said, because I literally muted all this because I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm
I don't-
Paul Mario. I'm pretty sure he wishes he could have had the mute button for this.
Yeah, really.
See, I'm the only one that doesn't think it's that bad. It could have been a lot worse. I actually kind of
Like,
find
I
it
fully
funny.
agree with the sentiment, but also at the same time,
Mhm.
like the idea of everyone just staring at you as you say something like that, like,
Murder. I just
yeah.
think it's funny, like murderer.
Who
The
murdered?
Yeah.
language she uses,
Like,
just what I think it helps. Like, it's
any
not as
other
bad.
word in your vocabulary other than murders?
Well, I think she's also like kind of has a little bit of like
I think she's trying to put the
irritation,
point across.
rage. She's
Mhm.
kind of like, what the hell? Like,
Right.
why? Like, this is her like going off. So I kind of, this is why. And then like after like Mars just staring him down and Paul just shaking his head like, no, Marjan, what are you doing?
All right.
Paul
And
being the
then-
only sensible like one in this grocery store.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I can understand her frustration. I personally would not have done something as, public as announcing that, but I would not hesitate to go to like a supervisor and be like, do you know this guy is a murderer, and he's, how in the hell did he get hired?
Yeah, well, I feel like sometimes
I feel like with a discharge, like with it not having gone to trial, with it being dismissed, I think it doesn't have the same repercussions as like as far as
Mhm.
hiring goes. And like when you
Right.
got a grocery store position, anyone can kind of get those positions, I'm pretty sure.
Well, and it seemed like the place was kind of a mom and pop grocery store. It didn't seem like it was a chain. So he probably went
Yeah.
to them because there was a lot less like hoops to jump through to get a job.
Yeah,
And
really.
we'll learn later like how he got out. So but it all kind of starts to make you wonder like how in the world this happened.
Yeah, I feel like if she were to have just gone to a supervisor or like the owner, like they might have not have believed her. So I feel like this was just a bold statement that had to be made, even if
That's true
it's
too.
not like the best. Because I feel like
Yeah. Like also keep in mind that I don't feel at all sorry for him. Like, bitch. No. You shouldn't be.
No, he
breathing
should
like
not. Exactly.
But
He should not be.
at the same time, like part of me is like, I wouldn't do that simply because even as much as I hate it, unless he had done something on the job, like this job that he is hired as now, I'm like, I'm not sure I would try and take away someone's only source of income,
Right.
even that person's.
yeah, it definitely depends. Like
It
what the
depends.
job. Like he's not like, it's not like, I guess yeah, it's not a terrible thing. I don't even know what I'm going for.
You
Yeah.
know what? It's fine. Like, we don't blame her for what she said, but like, oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just that
It was a
embarrassment.
whole thing.
Mm,
The whole thing. I totally felt poor Paul.
yeah, I did too.
I felt for Paul the whole time, but I was just like, Marjan, like,
Go off.
Just imagine, I'm surprised this didn't come up. Just imagine somebody was recording the whole thing.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she would have loved that
Really
more though, I
did.
feel like. She'd be like, somebody's showing my story? Ooh, where are you gonna post that? TikTok? Instagram? Instagram Live? Where is this going? You know she would have said
Mhm.
that.
And she would have been like, yeah, tag me Firefox.
At Firefox.
Yeah. She did feel shame, and she shouldn't really, because she was technically perfectly within her rights. Stand
Oh,
up
yeah.
there and do that. Yeah.
So then we go back to the firehouse with Nancy and TK, and Nancy says how Owen knows how to pick them. Like, first she pisses off a serial arsonist and now a homicidal cop. And this is when TK says, "You haven't even met Lorraine." And Nancy's like, "Lorraine? Who's Lorraine?" And TK's like, "My dad's second wife. She's back in New York. She has had a thing for knives." And I'm just thinking, few things. What does "had a thing for knives" mean?
Does
Second,
this mean some kinky shit, like, or does this mean some threatening shit?
Right.
I don't know, but I'm so
I'm just like,
interested.
Yeah.
More interested than I should be. I mean, I don't want to meet her, but I'm also
oh
just
god, no! But I want to hear like the full story
Yeah.
of
I'm like,
the
what the
second
heck?
wife at some point, because
sometimes
obviously she's ex-wife for a reason. But like,
Right.
sounds batshit crazy. That's for
is
sure.
this the first time we've gotten a name for her though?
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
So
It is
Lorraine.
interesting.
So it was
Very
it was a
interesting.
big scene because we did get Lorraine as a name. I've
Yeah.
always been curious what the second white ex-wife is.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like when they name drop, it means we're we're gonna get an introduction to this at some point, and I'm like, I'm scared.
I
Oh,
never
yeah.
Also,
want to meet Lorraine.
Also, Owen Strand
If
knows
we
how to
met
pick
her,
them. Just saying. Like, Owen does not. He has a questionable like dating history.
He
so
does.
far, I'm most happy with Catherine, to be honest. Gwen wasn't bad, okay? Like, but honestly, I just can't picture her and Owen married. Is the thing. Obviously, they didn't stay that way for very long. But
That's why when things are like leading into a second relationship, I was like, that's weird.
see, the whole thing about he knows how to pick them. I'll just say that everything that happens later in this episode, that wasn't his pick. Is the thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like he attracts trouble.
That's what I mean. He doesn't attract the right women. Like all these, like especially with finding out what we find out later. I'm just like,
Literally,
yeah.
so far, Catherine seems like the most sane.
She seems, yeah, she
Yeah.
seems pretty
Excepting
sane.
Gwen again.
I liked
because Gwen
Zoe
actually-
though.
I did
Oh,
too.
yeah, Zoe. Why don't we have? I'm pretty sure she had other engagement, like the actress had other.
I know she's on another show, I think, but
I also think
like-
they didn't want to keep her long term anyways. Like they kind of had that be like a fling or whatever, which I hated. They could have done something good with that, but I feel like they're making up with Catherine, I think. Anyways,
Anyway,
long
there's a lot.
tangent. So then it's like Nancy gets served by the lady with the DNR. And it's just like, yeah, we all saw that coming.
oh yeah.
Okay, I'm just like, was that a lawyer? That did
No.
not look like a lawyer.
It was
okay,
probably
like, that
just-
did not look like a lawyer.
It was probably just some like whoever like delivers.
Yeah,
I was
you
wondering,
can-
like, who even
They probably
delivers?
I was asked to do that once. It just has to be, yeah, it's so somebody outside of the parties that are involved. It's like can be a friend or a family member that's not the initial parties, the one that's suing and the one that's being sued. You just have to go and hand them the papers and say you've been served and you have to just show proof that you did it. So with video camera or proof, so he was probably just a clerk or somebody that's, somebody knew and just said, hey, can you take these and serve her?
right, yeah. They either hired him or it was like an intern or like a clerk or something. And that makes sense. Yeah, so that happens and I'm just like, yep, we all saw that coming.
Yeah.
As
It
should
was
have.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, not surprised.
Not surprised at all. Literally, the only thing that surprised me was the person carrying the papers. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
at first I was like, is that a lawyer? That does not look like a
It
lawyer.
wasn't a lawyer, no.
No.
Okay. Okay, good.
And then we have Owen speaking with Marjan and Paul. Well, Paul's just kind of, I feel like, there, but Owen's just like,
I feel like
and-
he's there because he was there, but like not for reprimanding because he didn't do anything.
exactly. So Owen's like, when I used the words "stay away," how does that get translated into harass this man at his place of work? And Martian's just like, he reported me, and Owen's like, no, he didn't. Martian's like, oh, then someone at the market complained, and Owen's like, no. And Martian's looking at Paul, and she's like, you snitched, and Paul's like, no, I didn't snitch. And Owen's like, Paul did not snitch, although he should have. And then Marcia be like, okay, so who did? And Owen tells her how there were like 2 undercover rangers in the parking lot watching him. And
I'm just starting to laugh at this point. I'm like, of course they were.
You got
Yeah.
by the rage. You got caught by the rangers. I don't know. I just think it's funny. Yeah. So like they were there because Owen had Gabriel put him there by his request.
Mm-hmm.
And Owen's
And they can't monitor him at work because he lost his job. And
And
Marjan's
Martian's
like, he
happy.
lost his job. So happy. It's like, girl, you are missing the entire point. I mean,
always-
yeah, but
she
you're
always
everything.
this is less bearable than like in episode 3 when they were up in like the hill country and she was like kind of like pressuring him about reopening the 126 and getting back there and that kind of stuff. This is less bearable than that, but it's also like I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah, like I don't really like pushy people. I like Marjan, but I'm not really loving all the vibes she gives off sometimes. Like that's why I had a problem with her, like with the premieres, because she was so pushy and stuff. Like, girl, just come back a little bit. And like I fully understand both of her standpoints then and now. So like I completely get it. I
Yeah.
do think she does have a tendency on focusing like on the wrong part of things sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like she
feel
either
like-
focuses on what to go her way or what has gone her way, not some of the repercussions. So like
Yeah.
you made him lose his job, there's more of a target on you now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and then she
Right.
turns her kind of anger and onto Owen about how how can he let the police handle things when they were the ones that couldn't keep him in jail.
And I'm like, what are you running around with handcuffs now? You're not authorized to handle this. It's the one like the
Right.
biggest issue is she's not authorized, she's not trained to handle this. So
Yeah.
when people take over handling something that they're not trained for, it becomes a mess. And so like I get it. Okay. I'm not saying I don't get it, but at the same time I'm like, I agree, but also please don't go do something about it.
Yeah. Well, and then she brings up, asking Owen if he thinks they care that he put a pig's head in his bed and, doused his girlfriend with cornstarch or baking soda. And then Owen's like, it was cornstarch. And he's like, and we don't know that he actually did those things, unfortunately. Well, and I was thinking too, like, I feel I've gotten the vibe in the last, probably a lot like this season. I feel like, we know that Marjan has gone through a lot, like,
Well, yeah.
just to be a firefighter and the things she's had to deal with. I
And
feel
it's
like she's
first
putting
off,
her
like,
anger
first-
and frustration into, she's focusing on the wrong things. And so it just like snowballs for her.
I'm actually hoping they'll focus on her at some point, like her struggle,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
she lost a lot when going to be a firefighter, but she's also lost a lot because she's a firefighter now.
Yeah.
Like her fiance, for one thing. Like that's
Yeah.
no great loss, but still, I know we're dealing with a lot of like Owen stuff now. Like, please deal with more of Owen stuff now. Thank you. But like, I do think Marjan is snowballing a little bit. I think you put it as a very good way. Like,
Yeah.
she's kind of trying to fix everything, and
Yeah.
not
Right.
everything is within her power to be fixed,
Right.
Mhm.
You know how like
or
it's-
should be fixed by
Right.
her.
Right. You know how like if something happens or if like things are messy with the 118, Bobby like kind of be's like, yeah, you guys need to go to therapy or something like that. Like maybe
Mhm.
you should like go talk to somebody, and that happens. So this is what we need to do here. Like Owen needs therapy. I feel like Marja might need, I mean, everyone needs a little therapy. And the only people we really know that have quote unquote been to therapy are TK and
Judd and
Judd.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then
maybe we
even
should spread
Tommy's
this
going
on
to
around.
and Tommy's going to the survivors group and brought TK to that one too.
Yeah,
True. See,
that's
I think
slightly
there's a
different,
key
but yes.
difference is that Bobby embraces like going to therapy and stuff, and as far as we know, Owen really isn't there either. So there will be a difference because as far as we know, he doesn't really go. I am going to say one thing though. Marjan is literally Buck in so many ways because if you think about it,
Yeah.
the mentality that she has is also one that he does. It's the something's going wrong, I have to fix it, and I'm going to do it by any means necessary. And you don't always do it by the right means.
Right.
I think this is really becoming prevalent now because really they're so similar. She has some natural sense that he had to grow into a little bit. It still doesn't all the way have, but and I'm not saying this to hate on Buck. I do love Buck now,
Yeah.
but my point still stands.
It's a very good point. I agree.
Right.
It's literally, I'm hearing this description of all things she's trying to do, and I'm like, literally Buck.
Yeah. Well, and she even said, was it last episode or the episode before last about I'm really starting to regret trying to fight so hard to get the 126 back if everybody just keeps leaving. So again, she's trying to fix it and how she felt like she was, and so yeah, I would definitely love to see some more with her and learning more about what caused her to kind of have that reaction.
Yeah, that was to Mateo. That was like in episode 10.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember what episode that happened.
Yeah, it's when he took the job at the 129.
And then like Marjan through all this is just like, we need to warn Sadie. And it's just like, who's Sadie?
I'm actually surprised.
Typical. I expected this. I feel like Owen does this a lot, where he just forgets things or people, and he's just like clueless. And so Marjan's just like death staring him, being like, Sadie who had the cabin next to yours. And Owen's like, oh, Sadie, like ham radio Sadie. See, this is how you remember things. And then like he's like, oh well, she's in Hill Country, like no worries. And like Marshawn's like, no, she's here. And he's like, how do you know that? And she's like, because she invited us to her art show.
I'm just like, I would guess I would not see that or did not know he saw that or just simply ignored it.
He probably ignored it. Come on now. Like I feel like Owen's like, I don't know, like Owen's a typical man. I see this so much.
Owen is a typical man and not being a typical man because we know he has
well, just in the fact that
we love
he
it.
Forgot about her. He's a typical man.
He totally forgot about her, and I'm just kind of like, I didn't expect it, and I was so satisfied.
It was so funny. Like I was just like, oh my god.
So they go to this art show and they meet up with her, and that they tell her to be careful. If they see him. She sees him and call 911 and she starts calling 911. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, Griffin's right, like he's right there.
Which they had posted like a different, I think it might have been just like a different promo on like Instagram, and you could, if you paused it, you could see him there and stuff. And I was just like, okay, that looks like the art show. Like you couldn't really tell, but like I was like, no, that's definitely has to be at the art show because like he's gonna show up.
Right.
Especially after what Marjan did, like watching the episode, it's gonna happen because she really just poked a bear. I feel like
that's a good description. Yeah.
She poked the bear that wasn't like, it wasn't a sleeping bear, but it was one that was just kind of lumbering around and at the moment not being noticed.
Right, because
and she whacked it over the head with a stick.
Yeah, I feel like if he was really gonna come for them, he would have came for them the second he got out of jail.
Yes and no. I actually would say no because he was a deputy sheriff. He knows to be more slick than that. If something had happened to them right after he got out of prison, that would have put all eyes on him because they would have known that they'd witnessed something and stuff. And this guy just walked free, was that. And we later find out that he wasn't let go because they thought he was innocent. Which that will come up later. We'll deal with that then. So I'm just like, if he'd come after them, they would have looked at him. So
Right.
any
Well,
guy in there,
yeah, but like
any guy knowing the
also
system like he would have waited.
right. But maybe not like right away, but definitely like a lot sooner than like he wouldn't wait a month to like pop up. Like he would definitely not like threatening, but like he would definitely popped up way before, I feel like.
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah, so Owen and Marjan approach him and be like, hey, you need to leave. And he's like, through the conversation, he's like, well, I don't have anywhere to be because I don't have a job anymore. And he's like, he ends up threatening to kill Marjan and saying he should have during the snowstorm.
I'm just like, oh my god.
Marjan's like, can I deck him? Or she's like,
Yeah.
and it's like Owen's like, nobody's decking anybody. And then of course Owen, being
See,
Owen,
I'm here this
punches
entire time.
him.
The moment they walk up to Griffin, I'm just there like, no one's gonna punch him.
Yeah.
You
And
know
then he
it's gonna
punches him, and I'm like,
It's coming. Yeah.
okay.
Yep. So so he pulls Marjan back, or tells her no, and then he says something else to Owen, and then just as the police are coming in, Owen decks the guy. So who gets arrested? Owen.
And that wasn't why they were there. And I'm just like, Owen, you idiot.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god,
Like,
why?
and then like, so we get Gabriel talking to Owen, like he's like definitely not under arrest, and Gabriel kind of already says that and clarifies that, but Owen like says to him the second he punches, or the second he comes in, Owen says to him, before you say anything, yeah, I know I punched someone else. And Gabriel's like, you just had to add another name to the list. And Owen's just like, well, technically he was already on the list, and I mean, that's fair. He is right.
Yeah.
He was already on the list.
True.
Because of all this, Gabriel has to like take the detail off of Griffin, and they can't like follow him anymore because now Owen has a restraining order on him because of this. And we're like,
because yep.
It doesn't, as Gabriel said, it doesn't look good when your stalker has a restraining order on the person he's supposedly stalking.
Yeah. Though I have heard that happen in the past before about people who like have done that just because they think that's gonna help them in court or whatnot. But sometimes it ends up backfiring.
I feel like it should always backfire because I feel like it just doesn't like sound right. I don't know why it just doesn't. And like Gabriel basically just tells him it would be wise to keep it in check, like, his anger. Well, he doesn't say his anger, but like, it's implied. We all know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
So then we get Nancy and Tommy meeting with the lawyer, and the lady's only suing them for $1. Well, she's suing Nancy, but like technically Tommy's liable in some sense. And she just wants Nancy to basically not have a job. So she's basically just trying to prove a point, which I get it, like, but it's also like it's expensive to file, so why would you even like bother suing for that amount?
See, as far as I can see, she knows she's dying. So what else is she gonna use her money for?
That's true. Honestly. Yeah,
So,
maybe not. It goes either way, I feel like. But yeah, like I definitely am more on her side. I'm definitely on her side more just because like things were wrong of what happened and like it wasn't right.
It shouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah, exactly. And like it shouldn't have been disrespected. Like I get like I don't think Nancy was fully selfish, but I also think it was still very selfish of what she did, and like especially like the sister knowing like it's super shitty, and I'm just like I hate this.
Yeah.
Like I don't really have what to say besides like I hate this.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because you're right. Like I think they said she's suing Nancy for $1, the city for $1, and the fire department for $1, and then also that Nancy loses her job and it can never be rehired again. That was I think the biggest thing for him, because unfortunately there's a lot of lawsuits that come and go with in the medical field, and oftentimes they're settled out of court. But to have a stipulation of it being for Nancy to lose her job and to become unhireable, that's a big black mark basically on her.
She would have had to have gone a completely different career.
Yeah, she would not have been able to be a paramedic anymore at all.
Yeah.
And I think it's tough too because like the lawyer's talking, he kind of looked like a kid, like he looked like a very young lawyer. He's like, well, I'm going over this, and he's like, talking about how like it, seemed like she, like according to the report, she was wearing long sleeves and her bracelet was on, but it could be easily not seen. And Tommy's like, well, I didn't see it. And he's like, well, great, so you guys didn't see it, so no worries, we'll just fight it in court, it'll be fine. And then Nancy just quietly is like, okay, but she hasn't admitted to Tommy yet that she did actually see it.
And this entire time, she saw it. And so
you can tell by her reaction, like, okay, she saw it. If you didn't know by now, she saw it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's also like, I honestly find this scene out of the whole episode to be a little much because of the whole situation. Just because like they didn't actively actually try to look for it. It'd be one thing if like there was no clear signs, but she was a cancer patient. You gotta know enough that like she might have a DNR.
Yeah.
Like that's just known.
Yeah, I know.
She was in scrubs with a headscarf, and her sister had already said she had cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
So there were tons of signs.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And normally, like, I know I have friends because my job is in healthcare and I work as a home care aide. So when I go into my client's home, I have a spot in each one of my clients' homes where I know where all of their important documents are, like where their, medical stuff is. And usually there's a big red sticker on their refrigerator or something called File of Life. And inside that is all the specific information a paramedic would need to know if they came to the house and they were unconscious. And in that would be the big thing. DNR would have been like right on there. So
right. Yeah.
They don't show that a lot in shows like that, but that would have been what the paramedics should have done. Like, we need to check, like, yes, I know you need to take care of the person that's laying there, but also if she's unconscious, regardless of there being a family member there, they need to look around and see if they can find some medical paperwork or anything to find some information about this person.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a tricky situation. And so at this point, you're just waiting for Nancy to crack.
Right. So then moving on, we get so the 126 hang that was supposed to be at TK and Carlos's has been moved to Owen's because he just got out of jail.
Should we even call it that? Because he was literally just in like an interrogation room and they were just talking.
True. And Gabriel did say, he's like, well, I'll get you out of here in about an hour.
Yeah, he wasn't like, technically they arrested him, brought him to the station, but like it wasn't actually like fileable charges. Like they're gonna.
Is it too soon to say I'm so glad Carlos didn't go tell TK about this? Gabriel arresting Owen again.
Oh,
too soon. I know, I'm sure.
I gotta be honest, at first I had no idea what you were referring to. So I was trying to piece it together and I couldn't. And then I remember what you were talking about. I feel like this is a lot less worse than that because
it is.
in that case, like they were both like kind of like fooled with in a sense because they both they didn't know. But yeah, this is totally different. But anyways,
so Owen thanks them for bringing everything over to his place, and Carlos is like, yeah, no worries, we figured we could all use some comfort tonight. If you only knew, boy.
Oh yeah, and Owen being like, I can't believe I let him like goad me again into this. And Mateo's just like, well, you're protecting your family, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true, but did you have to use your fist to protect your family?
There's kind of no other mode for him.
I know, it's his motive at this point. Like it's really becoming a thing. Like, oh my god. If they had stopped before like this episode, like yes, it was still a thing, but I kind of forgot about like the previous ones to the point. But anyways, like and then like this is the episode where I like started liking Catherine. Like I pretty much liked her since the beginning and stuff, but I feel like this episode really got like a picture of like who she is personally, not necessarily because of like what she does for a living or anything like that, which I really like.
Yeah.
And like, so Owen's like saying like when Catherine's talking about like how they can look through the footage at the Capitol again, and he's like, yeah, we can come through that, and Catherine's like, well, there's dozens of hours of footage, and this is when TK's like, well, luckily we know someone who's just become an expert at scanning hours of footage. And Carlos is just like, this is why I keep getting chronic eye strain. And this is when I'm like, Carlos, why don't you bring up those nice glasses?
I know, right? Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
And TK's grinning at him, and then Carlos is like, okay, but you're helping me.
That was
no,
adorable.
you're not. In other words, you're not sleeping on the couch this time.
Carlos, you know what you do if he does fall asleep? You're just like, wake up.
Yeah, really.
Smack him. Be like, wake up. Oh, TK darling, wake up.
Yeah.
And like Owen's just like being like, oh, okay, we need to do this before he hurts anybody else and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah, because
great.
they're assuming that this Griffin guy is getting back at all of them, and they got to figure out how to find him. I do
Right.
okay, we've already said we love Gabriel in this. I do like the next couple of scenes when Gabriel pops up again.
I really like this is a really like love Gabriel. So then
Like, well, we kind of liked him before. I think we all wanted to see
I've
more.
always liked him. I feel like
Like,
well,
he grew on me a little bit. He
yeah,
had to grow up a
in
little bit.
204 we were a little
okay, we were
iffy, and then
skeptical
at the
then, you're
beginning
right.
of 208 we were skeptical, but he redeemed himself.
Okay.
So,
Okay, let me just put it this way. The second he said like whatever he said about like TK, like I really love him or something like that, like
when Carla said I think you're gonna like him, and he's like, I already do.
yeah. That is the second when I was like, I love this man.
And when he was like, he'd known the entire time.
Yeah.
Like he'd already known.
Yeah.
And he had
He's like, yeah. Are you gonna ride with your boyfriend to the hospital?
Oh,
wait, you knew?
Okay, I lied. That
Really?
is when I loved him.
He's like,
that line.
I really grew appreciation for him, and so
Right, yeah.
I love, this is truly the time I think when I was like, yes, Gabriel.
Yes.
Right, same.
So Benito, if you're out there, we love Gabriel. Thank you for bringing him to life.
Yes,
exactly.
I want to see more of him, please.
Yes, agreed. And Andrea.
Oh yeah.
Andrea, yes, even more of Andrea, please, because we've got even less of her.
Yeah. So yeah, basically like them being like, oh, we don't want anybody else get hurt kind of sets up the next scene because the art gallery is on fire. And I like how the 122 was there, so we got to see Captain Andrews because I really like him.
Yeah.
I like seeing like the other like fire stations like around the city, like especially since we got introductions to the 122, and I feel like now we'll only see the 122 unless they're gonna show us something random, but that's just
weren't Judd, Paul, and Marjan
yes.
there? Okay, I literally forgot that's what the 122 were.
Yeah. So like the whole art gallery is on fire, and Andrew says how like the bedroom is like almost gone and stuff because it's like literally like the building is just not safe. And so like Owen like tells Marjan to like see if you can get her on the phone because she is living in the back studio space. That's great.
Which is illegal for a reason.
Right.
Yeah, and he disregarded it when she told him about it. He said, oh, I won't.
Yeah, she said, don't call the fire marshal on me, because she made the sly comment that she was staying in the back of the
It's kind of good
gallery.
She said something, because if she hadn't said anything, they probably would have been worried.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so like
really good that she anyway.
And so what does Owen do? He goes in there, even though it's unsafe. And
I love how
I
love how he put Judd in charge, and then Judd's like, hey, I don't know how he said it, but it was like, ain't none of y'all going in there or something.
Oh, because like no, the thing was with that is he puts Judd in charge, he goes inside, and then after a few minutes when like Judd tells Owen that the building's about to go or whatever, and Paul and Mateo are just like, oh no, screw this, we're going in, and Judd's like, no you ain't, you're not going in there. And then this is when like Marjan says how like Owen's like going Lone Ranger again, and I'm like,
yeah. So then Owen carries Sadie out.
Right, Owen and Marjan are both going bunk in this episode.
They are really, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he carries her out, and that's who he placed on the gurney. I know that was like a huge question last episode when everyone saw the promo. They were like, who's that?
Yeah. And then her comment is, oh, you came for me. Yeah. Wish we wouldn't have.
My point exactly.
I
because we learned later, kind of wish we wouldn't have.
I mean, when I think
Hindsight's
about that,
2020.
yes, but also this episode would have been at a halt. So
absolutely, but like in terms of convenience, is okay. And pretty more of a convenience, but still.
So we see Tommy checking on Nancy, and I love this, but like I don't know why I find this whole thing cringy. Like it's
Yes.
sweet, she's checking on her, but the
Mhm.
second it gets cringy is when like Nancy it finally admits that she saw the bracelet, and I'm just like, dear God,
Mhm.
why? And she said she was thinking of his sister, and I'm like, that's not really a good enough reason. I'm
Still,
sorry.
it's still you were thinking about you.
Yeah, I love my family to death, but would
Right.
I disregard any of this or do this if I was in a situation? Absolutely freaking not.
No.
Like,
Yes.
no. And
I have a
like,
lot of people I love and would not want to let go, but
Yeah, I get it. Not to talk too much personally, but yeah, I mean, I had to make that decision. My dad didn't want to get treatment for what was wrong with him back last year, and I had to honor his wishes when he finally told me he didn't want it. So that was, all right. Selfishly, I could have given it to him, but I'm like, that's not right because I'm ignoring his wishes.
right, because you're a good person. You wouldn't
Right.
disregard.
And the doctors honored his wishes, like regardless of what they could or couldn't have done. And so yeah, like Nancy as a medical professional should never have done that.
Yeah.
when you become a medical professional,
Mhm.
not saying you need to leave your emotions completely out of it, but
Mhm.
you are agreeing to act in the welfare of the patient.
Right.
And if the welfare of the patient is a DNR order, which shows that they are like, yeah, if I'm going, just let me go.
Well, what's the main oath of the medical field? Do no harm. And
Do
in
no
this
harm.
case, survive.
That's doing
Making her
harm.
survive is doing harm.
And like I people may be listening and thinking like we're trouncing on Nancy. We are a little bit, but like not that way.
And in
Always
professional matter,
reason.
we are.
With
With
good
reason.
reason.
She made a wrong decision.
Exactly. Like
And
yeah, we don't hate her. We don't like it's not any great thing against her. It's just kind of like she
Right.
did something bad and we are absolutely calling her out on it.
Yeah. Like if she had not seen the bracelet at all and it had come up
Absolutely
later,
something else.
I would have had a whole different perspective on the situation. I would have
Then I
felt
really
bad.
would be saying, "Oh, poor Nancy. Like it wasn't her fault. She didn't see it. We know she saw it though, and that's a completely different ballgame."
Yep. And then Tommy kind of at the end of the scene kind of says, she thinks there's another way to fix it. And because, they want to resolve it. And it's like, how is this going to get fixed? But before we figure that out, so dumb.
I always knew. I was like, they're gonna talk, and I was not looking forward to that.
I'm still not.
Yeah. So before we get resolution of this scene, we get Owen is at the hospital talking to Gabriel while Sadie is getting checked out, and Gabriel's explaining how because of all the drama that Owen and Marjan have caused with Griffin and his restraining order, Gabriel can no longer put detail on Griffin's house. Gabriel says, so I can't put a detail on his house at, and then says this address. It's the one with the white fence, and then he walks away. Like,
you're better off putting your son on the house than like telling
Owen. Other than the person that might go punch him a third time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like I get how this plays out. I get why this plays out how it does. But I'm still like, are you sure you told the right person?
Right.
This?
Not the best idea, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Appreciate.
I kind of think in this moment, Gabriel's realizing that regardless of what he tells Owen ain't gonna listen. So he's like, he's just trying to like, make it easier.
He knows Owen would do it anyways, and also, if Gabriel didn't give the address, he could easily ask Marjan.
Oh yeah, because we know she just did.
I don't know if he actually knows that detail because she told it to Paul, but I'm sure it's come up. It heads to her.
Yeah, but before Owen heads off, and after Gabriel leaves, Owen goes to talk to Sadie, and she's talking about the few injuries she has. I think she hurt her wrist and a couple of things, and they're gonna discharge her. And he's like, "Well, where are you gonna go?" And she's like, "Oh, I guess I'll go back to my house in the hill country." And he goes, "No," he's like, "You need police protection and all this stuff." And then you see the wheels turning in Owen's head, and I'm like, "Oh, great."
This is really great. But like, I don't even think, I don't know, like, 'cause she he just said like you won't be safe there if you go back there, and
Yeah.
she's just like, well, they won't give me police protection
Right.
and stuff. And this is when Owen's just like, I got an
Yeah.
idea, and I'm
Yeah.
like, great.
Knock,
So
knock,
he
knock. Let's go to the loft.
let's go to TK Carlos's because Carlos is a cop. It's like, oh, this is Carlos. He's the officer I was telling you about. And I'm just like, but the whole thing in the scene that really like it didn't get me the first time around because I wasn't really like zoned in on all the details. It's just how I was trying to actually watch it than actually think about the whole episode the whole time. But like the second time around, I was like, okay, the way Sadie looked at Catherine really was super suspicious.
Yeah.
When it's
I
like
got that immediately.
she
Yeah,
walked
I
in
saw
and
that
was
either.
like,
I should say a disclaimer beforehand was that I should say a disclaimer before all of this. EJ found out what happened at this particular scene, like scene that comes up that we'll talk about, and I got her to tell me. So I was already coming in knowing something was more wrong than I'd already thought it was.
I knew a lot more than I told you because I didn't want you to get spoiled on everything, but I'm like, she's gonna want to know some of this, so I'll just give her the cliff notes.
I'm guessing you told her about the drugging.
Yeah.
I knew about the drugging. Yeah,
Okay.
That's what I knew.
That's all I told her about because I didn't want to talk
so
about anything else.
I knew what to look for, and so I was looking for that, and that's how I saw her giving the nasty eye to Catherine. I'm like,
So, yeah, something was up with that, but
so yeah, and Owen like says like how he's gonna go sit on Griffin's house since APD like and the Rangers can't do it, and Carlos is like, does my father know?
like he told me.
He kind of
suggested it. Carlos's face was like, I don't know if I should believe you or call my dad.
I think it was, I don't even think it was that. I think it was more like, that's concerning.
He's like, Dad, why?
Yeah, and I think it seemed like the situation was kind of like because Carlos and TK were there. I think Catherine was there, and I want to say like they were having Catherine. Originally I think it was going to be Catherine and Sadie and Carlos and TK at the loft while they were handling all this, so both women were protected. But then Catherine's like, no, I'm going to go with you, and tells Owen she's going to go with him.
Yeah, of course. And then
that's an awesome date.
Is it? No.
No.
I mean,
we're all kidding.
What could be better?
Sarcasm.
Oh yeah, I know.
Complete and rampant sarcasm.
Oh yeah.
Like prime date or not?
Yeah, because that will go well. Anyways, so this is when the scene makes me cringe the most out of anything, honestly, because Tommy invites these women over, obviously, like from the call, and I'm just like, oh dear, no, because this is literally gonna backfire. And so she basically invites them over, baking cookies that were Charles's recipe. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, but I really just don't like this whole storyline. I don't think anybody does. Maybe like 2 people do, but that's probably it. And she's just like trying to get her to drop it, like the case or whatever, and it's not good. Like this is gonna backfire, and like it's already backfiring because the woman doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to drop the lawsuit because she has to stand up for people, which I get that. I do. It's just like it's a tough decision. Like Nancy is definitely in the wrong here, but it was also like one mistake she made. It wasn't like a repeated thing, but I also don't like she did do the wrong thing, and this should be laid out. And I'm just like, oh
yeah.
I mean, she should be reprimanded, and it should be on her record that it happened. But I don't feel like with the lawsuit, I don't feel like she should lose her job forever.
Oh, I agree. That's like
like and that's maybe, I think kind of Tommy was trying to get at. Is what I was kind of thinking.
I would be satisfied with a suspension, that kind of thing. Like lose job, never get to be rehired. It is. I get why she's doing it, but it's also a little harsh.
Right.
For a one-time mistake on an otherwise exemplary record. Now, if this was like someone with a lot of other issues, then like
Mm-hmm.
fire them. But like,
Yeah.
like again, I get it, but generally, maybe a little overkill.
See, I thought a suspension would happen. That's why I was kind
Yeah.
of surprised of how this whole storyline went. It was very like, it was weird. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you're right. Because normally when stuff like that happens, and then the guy that was at the office with Tommy and Nancy talking to them as their lawyer, he was from the department. So the department knows this happened. So they have to do there's got to be some repercussions. I mean, there may be something come up later.
Even outside of the lawsuit, they should have their own internal repercussions because their paramedic just did something they shouldn't have.
Right.
yeah, I feel like I've never like just in this type of show, I've never seen this covered. It's mostly covered in medical shows, so I don't really but like I feel like like there definitely should have been more of an internal thing because even if this lady didn't sue, they can't just like let this go. This is like a huge issue.
Yeah, and you were mentioning the cookies, and I have a feeling Tommy only did the cookie thing because then she could talk about her husband who'd passed away, so she could try and relate to them a little bit.
Yeah, that was definitely a ploy.
Yeah. And I was like, that was why you brought, because I was like, what's the cookies have to do with the price of tea in China at this point? But then it connected the dots. I'm like, oh, because it's Charles's recipe who passed away, and then she can use that to explain, oh, well, I lost my husband. But she didn't lose her husband because of an illness. He just passed away, like quickly, very suddenly. Like there was no chance for a choice of DNR or not DNR. So this is like apples and oranges when the discussion came up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like, it's still not right. Like, no. So we get to TK coming home and all this stuff, and like, because TK comes home at the scene, I think.
Oh, I thought. What about Owen? Did that happen before or after Owen went to sit on Griffin's house?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the part. Never mind. Okay, so Owen goes to Griffin's house, and who's there? Marjan.
She got a $50 background check on the guy. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I do find this a little funny because it is like it's just typical, so it's kind of funny. And so like Owen's just like Max at her window, and he kind of says how she's not aware, and she's like, I knew you were there. Sure you did.
She completely jumped. She didn't know.
That's kind of like my same reaction when people are like, I knew this was gonna happen. No, you didn't, because last week you said you didn't think this was gonna happen. Just saying. So it's like, you could go help script this security video, and she's just like, okay, like.
And then he pointed out that Catherine's was like, you have a screwed up version of what a screwed up notion of date night. Like,
she's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
That is so true. Okay, the first date ended in a kid like catching a kidnapping.
Yeah. Yep.
A bird died on one of their dates.
Pig was another one.
A pig. Yeah, they definitely need to find some normalcy.
Go bowling.
Anyway, yeah.
Then they'd have to deal with someone with like their head bashed in or something.
Yeah, probably.
But I think of bowling, I think of Paul, and I don't really want to think of that scene.
Yeah, I think of that one, but I also think of in 911 when
I think about
the woman
too.
with
There's too many things. There's too many things.
Meanwhile, back to the episode.
And just about that whole thing, like she's not wrong. And moving on to Carlos looking over the footage. This is when TK comes home with the food, and Sadie being like, oh, let me help you. And I'm like, this is what I'm like, okay, that's suspicious. Why do you want to help him? I'm sorry.
The way she said that was just like,
yes, exactly. Like
a little too eager.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I like TJ and I had done a live prior to this episode, and I wasn't necessarily on board with like, I didn't know how she was gonna come through. I was like, I know a lot of people have been like suspicious about her, And I'm like, I don't know, like maybe it is her, maybe it's not. Like I really don't know. But like the second this episode starts, then we're getting the clues. I'm like, okay, Sadie's suspicious.
Yeah, because you didn't find her suspicious. And I'm saying this because I remember our conversations during the premiere when EJ and I were both like,
I thought you guys were
The
crazy.
heck? Yeah,
you
Just
did.
being honest.
You did.
I was like, you guys, she's just like this like nice like
Neighbor lady, she'll be
neighbor lady.
fine.
I'm just like, no, something's wrong. EJ's like, no, something's wrong.
I'm like, I
And
don't trust her.
Even when, the premiere ended, it's like, see, she didn't do anything. It's like, I still don't trust her.
But like I
Validation.
really need to know, like there needs to be some interview that comes out if this was like the plan the whole time or this was some random thing, because if it was random then like there was no hints.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in
I
that.
love the actress who plays Sadie. She's been on a lot of shows I've watched. Julie Benz is awesome.
Yeah, I think she's been in some of my shows too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's just the whole like let me help you thing is very suspicious. And then like
Suspicious.
and
there was
TK
one moment when Owen brought her back, you could see her setting her prescription bag on the counter. And it was like the camera purposely panned to that. I'm like, after I watched it and I saw that scene again, and I'm like,
I never zoned in on it. Like, to be honest, like I really didn't pay much attention to it. I honestly didn't even like remember that she had prescriptions. I don't know why.
Right.
It wasn't really on my main like front of my mind. I wasn't thinking about it. But TK finds out that Owen and Catherine are sitting outside his house. So TK's just like, he brought a date to stalk his stalker. And yeah, same TK, same.
yeah.
And TK is just like saying like, yeah, well, at least our fire insurance is up to date because the last time he pissed off a maniac, our whole place burned down to the ground. And Carlos's face when he said that.
Too soon.
Honestly,
He lost too much.
yeah, it's like it's literally like been like almost a year since that episode. Like that's crazy, but like also like it's so weird to think about like where they were like then. But yeah, so then we get Owen and Catherine sitting outside Griffin's house and they're like talking or whatever, and then like the guy gets in their car.
I was so scared for a moment.
I was too. Well, you know what? The one thing that really got me, and everyone was saying this, why didn't you have your damn doors locked? Like, obviously, like, for the show, they're not going to have their doors locked. Like, but I'm also, like, logically, I'm like, why?
Yeah, why? Everyone locks their doors. If you don't, you should. Like, the heck?
Especially at night.
Exactly.
I always lock my doors if I'm sitting in my car at night, even if I'm in the parking lot. Well, obviously, you should. It just nope. And I'm like, yeah, that's dumb. And so then he takes a picture of them and sends his APD because obviously restraining order and all.
Right.
And then the guy gets out of the car.
Like, you came closer, right?
Right.
It was kind of his. Yeah, he's the one that got in the car. So I feel like.
But if it was like 100 yards or something, like I forget.
Well, Owen would still technically be at fault because
like he's still there.
He's still there, but like
you still made it worse.
The guy went in the car, so it's like obviously there isn't an issue is kind of my thing. But first he gets out of the car and he starts walking towards his house, and as he gets near his car, it explodes. And so this is when Owen runs over to him and Catherine calls 911. And I'm just like, I did not expect that. Like we saw the car explosion in the promo, but I also wasn't really thinking about this as I watched it. But like I didn't expect him to explode. I was just like, whoa, damn, like that's crazy. Yeah,
I didn't expect it at all.
No, it was totally unexpected. And then this is when we get Tarlos looking at this footage as Sadie stares at them creepily.
Mhm.
Like if you look at the promo pictures of her like across from them sitting,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the vibe. You can be like,
Yeah.
that's something's wrong. Something's off about that. And so like he sees something and he's like, wait, is that him? And Carlos is like, that's a statue.
I'm like, you know what? They've probably been doing this for hours.
Yeah.
They probably are desperate to see something.
Yeah.
I can see that. And then TK says that like starts coughing and says how it's spicy and how he's sweating through his hoodie and he might have to lose some layers. So he
Yeah, and then Sadie's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I go too heavy on the chili oil?" And Carlos tells him he's a lightweight. That
This-
moment was cute, though. I will
I
say
love
that.
that.
Carlos teasing him about not being able to handle spice. That was cute.
That was like the like I was like the Mexican heritage and Carlos being like, TK, you're such a white boy. That's how
Yeah.
I saw it in my head. Which is how it yeah. And like so then he excuses himself and like he's gone for a bit and so Carlos says how he feels like they're chasing their own tails and Sadie asks Carlos if he wants more tea. And so he starts to say like yeah that would be and then he stops. It's like he knows so he tells her to sit down and she got hella creepy and I was just like,
yeah.
oh. I got creeped out like I was just like what the heck.
Oh, she was so freaking creepy. Like,
Yeah, and Carlos, so she shows her some of the footage and it's just like you were there at the Capitol. And
Mhm.
his facial expressions and also like his interrogation skills, I was like, make him a detective, please.
Yes,
the fact
exactly.
that he's doing this well drugged and is like
Yep.
clearly nudging onward, like encouraging the story, that kind of thing.
It's perfect.
Did it.
Like, and
Yeah.
so Carlos asks like why she did this, and she asks him if he believes in destiny, and basically saying that her and Owen were meant to be together. And it's like you're delusional. And then like
Agreed.
Carlos asks how she broke into Owen's house, and she says, "Oh, the young woman who walks the dog. I saw her take a key from under the plant. It was actually pretty easy." And so this is like the first time that we get like a Buttercup mention while it's showing Buttercup.
Like, where is Buttercup?
I know. I'm like, well, at least we know he has a dog walker.
And Carlos is like,
Nice.
but weren't you worried you were gonna get caught?
Yeah, I don't know if
He's
that was the exact line, but it was
yeah, I can't
like,
remember exactly what it was. You could definitely tell he was kind of playing along to see how much he could get out of her.
yeah. Oh yeah, because then he's like Carlos is just like Carlos is just like saying like and you set the fire at the gallery and like he's
You could have
like
died.
you could have died. Okay, that's the whole scene. Like everyone's saying this, like that gave like such like good like vibe, but also like damn, like people are like Carlos could definitely be like Rafa could play like a murderer, killer, or a ghost or something, and I'm like you're not wrong.
Mm.
And then like Carlos is just like this is when he's like wondering where TK is because he's starting to piece it together. I don't know if he like I don't think he gets to the drug part until he stands up, but he's like, "Where's TK?" Then he
Just like
gets
and
up.
her like, I don't know. It's a loft. He couldn't go far.
Yeah, they literally have only one other room, and that's a bedroom, literally. And so like he gets up, he falls down, and he's just like, as he falls down, he's just like, "What did you do?" And she's just like, "Oh, I put 70 milligrams of oxy in the soup. It shouldn't kill you." And I'm like, "Bitch, what the
Oh.
And
hell?"
she's like,
Okay,
should it?
this is the
She's
part
like,
of the
I don't think
episode.
so.
This is the part of the episode where I literally screamed, "What the fuck?" And I was so mad with the
Right.
first time I watched this. I was so mad because like if I had known this was going to happen, I probably would have been able to dial it down a little bit. But I was
Yeah.
still like I was mad.
Well, yeah, and like, so it was so weird because like Carlos stood up, like, so he hadn't been. So I know these medications, like the oxycodone, especially when you change your, because it can change your heart and your blood pressure really quick. So if you stand up super quick, it can cause you to get dizzy. So I think because they'd been sitting for so long, it didn't really affect him until he stood up. So he's kind of stumbling around and asking. So you can kind of hear in his fog that, you know, she's explaining, well, I did this, and I couldn't let you guys tell Owen before I had a chance to tell him all of this.
Yeah, because he's gonna find that so attractive.
Right. So then Carlos is kind of stumbling into their room, and then he sees like TK's feet, and he falls, and like the last words on his mouth were TK, and I was like,
Yes. And then the
And the-
door buzzes.
yeah.
And I'm just like, great. This is, yeah, I was so mad. Like I'm like, I definitely have thoughts about like this whole situation, but I'll definitely like talk about this more later. But I was so mad when this first happened. I was like,
Oh,
are you
me too.
serious?
I am so mad. So
Actually,
mad.
I was
Like,
like,
obviously I'm mad. But
I
at
you
the
know
same time,
I have a
think
video like right I
smooth-
didn't yeah I have a video like right after this happened. I was like, I can't believe she freaking toasts that. That's actually the words I used.
like I definitely am mad. I definitely was definitely very mad after this. But also I will just say the way they slid the transition of her presenting like personality into the slightly more psychotic personality was actually super smooth.
Oh, I
I
agree.
loved how they did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely like very well done.
Yes.
Like it was very good. But so then Owen and Gabriel talking, and like this is after like the whole blow up thing, and like yeah. And so Gabriel says how he thinks this guy's enemy, like his list is longer than just Owen stuff. And so then Gabriel gets another call, and he's just like asking what they got. And this is kind of like, I feel like this has to clue into what Carlos found out. Because I'm sure the Rangers were looking at the same exact thing. And I'm like, great. I mean, good. Like, you should find out.
Yeah.
But also like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
so back to like the whole like loft. Marjan was the one that was at the door. So Marjan is
So I was just thinking, like, so Marjan's at the door and the doorbell rings. Carlos did not fall like down right in the bedroom. Katie had to move him from the floor where he landed to the bedroom because he landed on his stomach, but when Marjan opened the door, he was on his back.
Guys,
You know what-
keep it in mind. She also carried an entire dead pig into Owen's bedroom.
That is true.
She's strong.
she's strong and psychotic. Like, she'll do
It's
anything.
true.
But
Yeah, so like I'm not surprised at all with strength, because you know that I used to be a farmer. That pig probably weighed somewhere around 500 pounds.
Yikes.
Dang.
Maybe a little closer to 300 or 400. But pigs, fully grown pigs, weigh several hundred pounds.
Wow.
So that was definitely a full grown,
That's a lot of bacon.
a young full grown, but it was
That's
full
so
grown.
true.
The
That's a lot of
minimum,
bacon.
it was
You're right.
minimum 200.
Okay.
So she
Wow.
carried that thing into the bedroom. Like,
Yeah.
she's strong. So of
Right.
course she was going to be able to pick up a muscular, fully grown man. Like,
She
at least
probably
Yeah.
just dragged him, to be
That's
honest.
what, I
Yeah.
don't think she picked him up fully, but like easily moved him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, she definitely easily moved him.
Yeah, like it's crazy to think about even that, because it's just like, but Marjan's smart. She's not gonna like, because she walks in and she's just like, Sadie right away just says, oh, like Carlos found something on the video, like it's Griffin. And of course Marjan's like all excited about it.
Of course.
But then she's just like, they left you. And you can tell like the whole time she's just suspicious about the whole thing, because it is suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And she's
Just
like,
leaving someone they don't even know in their loft.
exactly. You don't leave strangers in your home. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And TK went with him?
yeah. And it's like, oh, he brought the stuff down to his dad, the Texas Ranger. And it's like Marsha being like, he hasn't heard of the internet.
I know. It's like,
I thought that was
I love
funny.
that.
It's like true. And then like she's cluing in very quickly of
Mhm.
like what's happening, and so
She's
she hears
seeing the food bowls on the counter or the table, and the laptop still sitting there, and
their I believe it was like clothes or whatever, like jacket or something.
Mhm.
Then she hears TK's phone or Carlos's, who wasn't really clued in whose it was. I feel like it might have been Carlos's because it might have been like his dad calling him to be like, "Hey,"
Right.
and
Heads up.
yeah, and so Marjan like opens the door to like their bedroom, and she sees like Carlos laying there. I'm sure she saw TK too, because I'm sure they're like the same room, but like they
Mhm.
only really showed Carlos. And then Sadie stabs her in the back.
Ugh.
I thought she was gonna knock her out. Okay,
Yeah.
so when she stabbed her, I'm like, wait, what?
I think
Wow.
I think one of you guys was like, when we were watching it, was like, don't turn your back to her.
I think I may have said that, but it could have been.
I think it
any of
was
us.
you, but I couldn't remember specifically.
I think all of us had the same
Can't
general
remember.
thought though.
Yeah.
Was like, don't turn your back to her.
And
Yeah.
then so she does stab her in the back, and Martian's like, hell no, and pulls the knife out
Yes.
and
Oh my
punches
God.
Sadie, and it's like, yes, and Martian's just like, bitch.
Just
I
to
think-
quote Josh from 911. You'd think after 15 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, people would know to not pull things out. Just say, sorry,
Yeah.
I had to quote Josh from that.
It's true.
It's so
good,
true.
Good line, but I'm just there like, that slows the bleeding, right?
Yeah.
But like then her just like turning around and fucking punching her into unconsciousness. Like, I forgot
Yeah.
Marjan's a boxer, but she
Yeah.
is a boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only a big Cooper. But I
And the
know,
roller derby is a very intense thing too. So man,
Yeah.
she's got the experience. Mhm.
Luckily, though, where the knife was, it wasn't like a super major area, which I think is why she automatically
there's like
just,
shoulder blade area.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like severe area, like something that's like definitely not somewhere you're gonna pull out a knife,
Right.
because that's definitely happened before.
Oh yes.
And it's just like, yeah, okay. And then like directly after, Owen shows up at the loft, and Sadie's just like, you came for me, and Owen being like, I did not come for you. And Sadie
But
gets
he did.
oh yeah, but he did. Yeah, and Sadie gets arrested by Gabriel, and then we see Marjan, and then we see Tarlos in the bedroom sitting up, and they look so sad. I mean, understandably so.
Right. Ugh.
Honestly, they look sad, but also to me, like I think at the time they're also really out of it.
They're
Mhm.
I'm sure they're in shock, and like I'm
Yeah.
sure they're not fully there. And then Catherine's just
I don't
standing
think they're
next
going
to
to
him.
fully comprehend it for a while. Like I don't think they did fully comprehend it for a while. Obviously, we
yeah.
know they have by later in the episode, but like at this point in time, they know something happened. But like,
Yeah, definitely. I do. This is how I feel about the drugging. Like, yes, I didn't want it to happen, but I felt like
Mhm.
just in general, the whole talks about like relapse or like drugging has been talked about a lot. And my whole view on it, is if they were going to do like something like this, especially mostly in TK's part, I'm kind of like, I kind of rather it happen this way than like TK purposely like
Right.
relapsing,
for damn sure.
because
Yeah.
I don't like we've never liked the fact of like TK relapsing. I mean, who would? Like,
Right.
that's wrong to feel
Mhm.
that way, and personally. And like it's been like talks for like literally since like the season finale last year, and it's something that
Mhm.
comes up quite a bit. And I'm just like, well, if they're gonna do it, this is the way to do it. Definitely not happy about it, but like
It wasn't intentional. It was
Mhm.
forced.
it was, yeah,
Um,
exactly, which
and
sucks.
like generally, the definition of relapse is when an addict purposefully goes to find drugs.
Mhm.
This was not the case. So like this
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily be a mark against him, but it set his body back to day one. This is the thing.
Right.
Because now
Right,
his body's
yeah.
like, wait, drug?
Yeah,
And
like
it will make TK himself feel like
Yeah.
Right.
even
Yeah,
though
like
he hasn't done anything. Like he
Right,
wasn't the one
right.
responsible.
Yeah. And like,
All he did was eat soup. That's it.
yeah, even
Mm.
though we don't see it as a relapse, he does, and a lot of
Mhm.
addicts will, because
Right.
it technically is because it's in your system and that messes with you, like we've said.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like she I feel so bad because like this is like his power and she took that away from him. She took like his like everything away from him.
Yeah, she took his sobriety. She took his, his control.
Yeah, and that's gonna
Mm.
really, I feel like that's gonna really like mess with him. It's really gonna screw with his mind for like,
Yeah.
especially up. That's a lot of people were like, I kind of understand why this happened, knowing what their teen's about, and I'm like, yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
This shows the transition into 13.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
It shows
definitely.
how we
Because we have the synopsis. Yeah, we know what that is. So I'm excited because it's something we've talked about. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for the fact that we're going to see a little bit more of that, but I'm not excited for the reasons we're seeing because I
Yeah.
am
Yeah,
still
like-
mad and super mad about what happened because I think like TK had his we don't know exactly how long it's been since the end of season 2 or 208 and now. So I'm thinking like at least a year. So if TK was a year at 208 and now it's at least a year, so he's 2 years down the drain in some ways. And
Yeah.
yes, like a relapse is when he voluntarily does that. So maybe he can justify it that, mentally he didn't, but his body, like Grace said, is still going to remember. It's like, oh, drugs, and then like start all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
And
it,
I know
it essentially comes down to sobriety because it was 2 years of sobriety and then he became not sober. Yes,
Right.
it was not by his
Right.
choice.
Right.
But
Yeah.
by definition, I'm interested to see how it'll be regarded in the next episode, but we already know from later in this episode how TK regards it. He sees it as
Which that makes sense. Like
I feel like he's probably going to be less hard on himself because it wasn't his choice, but
I think
it's still something hard.
I think he's not going to be hard on himself in the fact that like it's not like he made this choice, like that was taken away from him. But I feel like this, like I said, is going to screw his mind because like he had no choice. Like he was forced and he didn't even know about it. And like not to mention like Carlos is like this isn't going to be as bad for Carlos, but like this is also like kind of triggering for him because he's like, as a cop, it's like this woman came in our house and like he missed the sign, so I feel like that might come up.
Yeah, he's gonna have some guilt for not being able to protect TK.
Yeah.
And this is also, in a way, this will take away their safe space. Their home their safety has been violated.
They're not gonna want to have strangers over anytime soon.
Right?
I
No.
wouldn't either.
They're gonna need to be able to like mentally reclaim this as like their safe spot. And when anyone is attacked at home, that element of safety goes. So like this is not a new phenomenon. Anyone who's robbed, anyone who has any sort of unwelcome interaction within their home or any place they regard as a safe spot, this happens. And I've had it happen. Like I've had a violation of safe spots before and it's hell. And so like something of this magnitude, it's going to be big.
Right.
So the next day we get Nancy and Tommy taking inventory at the ambulance, and Nancy's commenting that this is probably going to be her last day of work, and Tommy's like, don't
Last time doing inventory.
Yeah, last time doing inventory.
Oh yeah. And it was like, Tommy's like, well, it could take a while for the trial, and before they really get to finish their conversation, TK shows up in a 126 hoodie. I want a 126 hoodie.
Please.
I'm sure there's some fake ones rolling around there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure
I already know there is actually.
And Nancy's like, she's like, I didn't expect to see you back so soon. And TK's like, well, he had to get out of the house. And Tommy asks how Carlos is holding up. And TK's like, yeah, he'll be fine. He's resting at home. And Tommy's like, shouldn't you be doing the same? And in a normal circumstance, yes. But like TK said, he's like, he's better off here. Otherwise, he'd be spinning out of the fact that he's back to day one. And Nancy's like, day one of what? And then TK's like, my sobriety, the pills she used for opioids.
And see, I'm glad they didn't try and do any like soothing words, any they were just kind of like, well, now that you're here, let's help with inventory. I'm glad they didn't try and do anything.
Or
Because what do
like,
you say to that?
or like
You
try
have
to
no
yeah.
real right to try and rewrite that. But now, granted, I'm saying that as someone who would try to make the situation better, so like try and comfort that kind of thing. That's the kind of person I am. So
Right.
I would do this, and I'm fully acknowledging that I would as I'm saying this, but also at the same
Mhm.
time, you don't really have the authority to talk about this because this wasn't your body that this
Right.
happened. And so,
Yeah.
like,
And they've also like haven't been through that.
yeah.
Like they don't know. And I like how like they basically listened to him, are like, okay, and they told him like Tommy gave him something to do, and it's like they're not telling him maybe you should go home, like because like we all know home's not the right place for him. Like if he's home, he's gonna be worried about Carlos, I feel like.
And he's
He's
gonna
also
have nothing to do with his hands or preoccupied with his mind.
and he's gonna be worried about himself. He's gonna be like you said, he's gonna be spinning out. Like, yes, this is like
Mhm.
the best place he can be.
And, you know, it's he doesn't have to go on calls. All he has to do is like count bandages. Is all he has
Yeah,
to do.
exactly.
And that actually takes a surprising amount of like mind power. So like, yeah.
And of course, second he walks away, the sister comes in and she's
Mhm.
like visibly upset, like she's crying, and they're like asking her what's wrong. And she says how her sister had passed away the night prior, and like she had acknowledged that she's not in pain anymore. And then Nancy, like I really like this part,
Yeah,
she
me
asked
too.
her if she could hug her, and she said yes. And so she does. And then she says how her sister dropped the lawsuit against her before she died. And then
Mhm.
lastly, she just wanted to give her her DNR bracelet as a reminder. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea.
Mm.
Definitely not.
Yeah, yeah, because the one who was sick, and she wanted to, part of the reason why she was suing was because she wanted to, hold them accountable for, what happened, and stand up for the others DNRs who have DNRs that, should not be ignored. So this is just a reminder for her to, hey, think about that before you go on their next call or on your every call.
Yeah.
So I think it's a
Right.
good idea.
Yeah. And then we go to Owen visiting Marjan at the hospital, which I really liked.
Yeah. Okay, so far we've seen Paul in the hospital, Judd in the hospital, Grace in the hospital, TK in the hospital multiple times. We have yet to see Carlos in the hospital, in a hospital gown, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like they probably went to the hospital in this episode.
We've seen Owen in the hospital. Like,
Right, surgery, yeah.
I haven't seen Mateo in there. So far, Mateo is the only one on the fire crew that has not been in the hospital. Well, Tommy. Nancy broke her foot, so she was in the hospital for at least some time when that guy rolled over. Like,
I hate to say
Right.
it, but I think the 126 is jinxed.
I didn't think so.
no, I'm starting to wonder.
Just imagine like Buck being like, yeah, you guys are jinxed. And we should talk. Half of them have been in the hospital.
We want to talk about the amounts that have been in there. I'm pretty sure everybody.
Hen?
I was just saying, wait, has Hen?
No.
She's the only one though.
Has Bobby been in the hospital? Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. He
Remember
was.
was that last season or the season before that? I can't remember.
Well, the 3 was when he had the radioactive stuff from the yeah.
Oh yes. So yeah, so I'm visiting Marsha in the hospital. Marjan stands up. She's like 4, 3, 2, 1 or something.
She's doing like some exercises.
Yeah. And Owen's like, what are you doing? And Marjan's just like, they gave me 2 units of neg, feeling no pain. And I think I'll be back ready to go back to work on Thursday. And Owen's just like, no, you're not. You were stabbed in the back. You need a week off. I think that's a rule.
I'm like, I counted that. I think you need at least 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Owen's just like, yeah, no, you're not. And then like, I was just thinking through this whole thing, imagine if Paul was there and be like, no, after all the shit you gave me, I think maybe you should think that about that through. Remember a while ago when I kind of wanted something like that to come up, but yeah. Then Owen hands her a file, or like he's holding a file, and Marjan's just like he tells her like, oh, you want to read like Sadie's Texas Ranger file that he got, and it's just like, I think I have had enough true crime for 1 week. Can you just give me the highlights? And Owen tells her how Sadie killed her ex-husband and put her head, which would have just been her husband, and put his
Knew it.
head in
I
her
knew
freezer.
she killed her husband. I had this gut feeling when that episode, when she introduced herself and her husband, and it just, everything she said just seemed so fishy about where her ex-husband was. I was like,
She gave off, see, for me, she gave off like the typical like Southern housewife vibe. So I wasn't really like that drawn, especially of how they like introduced her, which is kind of why I feel like this was just a random thing that happened. I don't think it was
No.
like premeditated.
On her, this was the one thing I didn't predict with her.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was like a husband killer. But like after like being like, seriously, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
No, it makes sense now.
You know?
But like, I couldn't say that I really thought about this because I honestly don't think this is supposed to be the story the whole time. I feel like this is just something random. Like,
I know. I still say
not
my
to say
instincts
she,
are right.
not
Or
to say
instincts
she
are right.
wasn't suspicious, because she definitely was suspicious in her intentions.
Mm,
But just some things that happen, I feel like are still like something they came up with later, not necessarily in the beginning of the season.
probably.
That's
they probably had it pegged out. She's gonna have something later.
It was
but-
probably after like the snowstorm where they're like, maybe we'll bring her back and do this. Because I feel like that's more like what it was. So like after Owen tells her all that, like Owen's like, okay, like enough of like the stuff. And she's like, okay. She says calling him Mr. Fists of Fury. And I'm like,
Yeah, she doesn't have much room to talk anymore.
yeah.
You know,
True.
she's now also.
Yeah. But when she
So,
punched,
like-
it was totally acceptable.
Oh, completely.
When he punched, it was kind of like on the cusp. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you should, especially since he's been doing it so often. It's like, maybe you shouldn't do that. And Owen says how he's done with that. And Marjan's like, don't make me laugh, I'll pop a stitch.
That's
So,
a mood.
Which means she totally understands that he's not gonna change because it's
Well, absolutely.
obvious it's not worked thus far.
he's gonna need some real help if he actually is gonna change his ways.
Yeah.
So then we get our last scene, which is Owen going to see the sheriff. And
I was a little surprised by the songs. I kind of forgot about him.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't expecting this to come up again, and honestly, like, it did like give us some idea of like things of him, but also that were I will admit, like, some of these scenes could have been condensed. Like the whole DNR thing, I feel like could have been condensed, where they could have given us a few things, which in our final thoughts will say things I wish we would have gotten. But so Owen just sees him. He has like third-degree burns, and like Owen says how like that is like, since like he didn't get caught for like, you know, killing the man, like that's the third-degree burns are like his lifetime of pain, and like
Well,
that's
we
the
also
justice
find
he
out
deserves.
happened, why he got off to begin with. We find that he ratted on the cartel, and that's why he was let go. I'm just like, I mean, people do make deals like that.
I know,
is
yeah.
not a
I've
rare
seen it.
thing.
Trust me, I've seen it in like every single show.
Yeah, like that's the thing. But it
Yeah,
was
he-
definitely
He made a deal with the FBI to rat on the cartel, and
let
that's
go. Like, granted, that's like
how you
dang,
got out.
murder. Okay, you're just a murderer, go free. But people have been let go for things before that.
Normally, if that happens, don't they usually put somebody who's gonna rat on a cartel in witness protection?
You'd think. I think that's how it's.
I mean, I
supposed to
know
go.
they usually do if somebody's gonna like testify and they don't feel safe like having them out, but I'm like, don't sometimes, like, I don't know. It just seemed very fishy that he wasn't in protective custody or something. I don't know.
Well, then there wouldn't have been a story.
The guy still deserved, like, he killed people, like he deserved justice. And you know, I'm not one for
one
like,
person, and he would have killed more.
I'm not, you
So,
know, I'm not saying one like, you know, you killed somebody, so now you're gonna have to suffer with, you know, third-degree burn injuries from the, you know, for the rest of your life. But like, I'm not that cruel. But he does
Karma's a bitch. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in karma, but also it's just like I kind of feel like if you do bad things will happen to you, that kind of thing.
And they probably should.
I'm pretty sure that this storyline with Griffin for sure is like wrapped up. But I'm curious if they're gonna have Sadie back for another like trial or something, because I can't believe that they wouldn't.
Okay, that did
continue that
cross the
on.
back of my mind, but I'm like, they're not gonna do that. Like, are
I
they?
feel like it's done.
I feel like it's done, but it did cross the back of my mind. Like,
Mhm.
I was just kind of like, are they gonna do that? I really hope not, because I really don't want that to come up, because like
I'm sort of ready for that to be done.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I feel like it'd be very triggering for like TK, but also like Carlos, and like
Mhm.
I feel like it'd be very hard
Everybody
for them.
involved,
So I kind of
honestly.
I want to bury this basically.
Although, like, I'm hoping we maybe hear about final results or something.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's
I would love to hear like, oh, she's in prison, but I feel like just logically, I feel like they're gonna have to like get her, like she's obviously like there's something really wrong with her mentally. So I feel like they're most likely gonna have to get her like a mental health check or something.
Mhm.
Because nobody in their right mind murders their husband and puts his head in their freezer.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's definitely not in that whole right mind thing.
Right.
Everything else, I don't know.
She's definitely delusional.
Yes. So I actually really loved this episode. Like feeling very I loved it. Like obviously we could have taken like about like the drugging and the trauma and that kind of stuff, but that's just part of the episode. You can't really take that out.
Yeah.
I do wish that like we would have. I don't really like a lot of people wanted to see like TK and Carlos like after the fact, but I honestly think they're saving that for 13 anyways. But also, I feel like I don't know. I feel like it would have been like worse seeing like another scene after all this happened. It might have
I'm
been. It would
perfectly
have been.
fine with not having seen it.
Yeah, I feel like it would have gotten really dark.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready for that quite yet. Like I feel like they're gonna get into like the more of this next episode. I would have liked to see like Owen like going off on Sadie, not gonna lie.
Me too.
I would have been like he's an addict, or like just going off on her about it. Like what's wrong with you, crazy bitch? But it was
Honestly,
still a very
her
great
knowing
episode.
him as an addict would not have changed a damn thing.
No, she wouldn't
She's
feel
psychotic.
remorse. She
She's
wouldn't have
psychotic.
cared.
She if she killed several people, well, she definitely at least killed her husband and was willing. Obviously, she didn't care really if TK and Carlos were gonna die, and I'm sure she would have gone after Catherine next just to clear the way and everything.
She already tried, I mean, she
Yeah.
didn't, but I feel like that was almost like
She was kind of doing
look
a
out.
psychological attack.
Exactly.
I love the episode. I think it was well written, well done. I hate the fact that TK was forced into relapsing. I hate Sadie for it. What she did was unforgivable, but I'm glad she was caught. And what I want to say is that stop blaming Owen. I've seen it. People are blaming Owen for what happened to TK and Carlos. Yes, Owen did think that their place would be safe, but at the time, nobody had any suspicion that Sadie was the person behind all this stuff.
He had no other reason to think.
Right. Us. Yeah.
Yes, Owen does play a part in this, and I'm sure there will be some discussion later, but nobody had known that it was Sadie until Carlos saw her on the video.
Right, exactly.
So
And
quit
honestly,
blaming Owen for what happened to TK and Carlos, because it wasn't his fault. He played a part in it. Blame Sadie, because she's the one that did it.
His part, like him playing a part in it, that was not even like he let her into law, which he had no reason not to do.
Right.
And he was the object of her psychosis, which was not his fault.
Right.
So like fucking stop it, y'all. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are just using this as ammunition to hate Owen more. And I'm like, I understand Owen has done a lot of stuff that's questionable, and there's a lot of reasons why people can dislike him.
He's
and
flawed.
Sure, there's things that, exactly. He's got flaws. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does bad things at times.
Everyone has flaws. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
The character that you obsess over in Lone Star has flaws.
Exactly.
And you can
And
apply
I
that to every
just
single person because TK has flaws.
exactly.
Carlos has flaws.
And
There
I
are
just
some.
I like for me, I love Rob Lowe. He's a great actor.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Owen has his moments, but he tries to be a good father, and I think he's just misguided in some ways as to how he does that.
And he doesn't always think. And no
Yeah.
one always thinks.
Yeah.
Just to be fair, like
He's very spontaneous, and yeah. So I don't know. I'm like, please stop blaming Owen for what happened because it wasn't him. If you want to blame somebody, blame the person who did it. Sadie. She did it to all of them.
Right. So you know the part in her whole thing when she's talking to Carlos when she says something like how like I don't know, something about Owen and then she like drugs him. So like somebody brought this up and I think this is a good point, but like they were like basically saying, so if Sadie really loves Owen, why would you basically like drug his son and then like
good question,
his son's boyfriend who like if you really love him that could potentially be your family.
right?
Obviously that was never going to happen because you know he's got a girlfriend and you're delusional, but like
Right.
that's
see that the thing is
funny.
that like psychosis does not result in
No.
normal handling of things. So she would have just seen them as being potential, I'm not coming up with the word, but like issues, like
Right, they
stepping
could have gotten in the way. Yeah,
They could have gotten in the way. They could have convinced Owen otherwise or something. And I think she also knew that they were going to find her on that footage, which would have made them obstacles. Obstacles, that's why I was like, couldn't think of her before. I think of objects for some reason. Not obstacles. Obstacles is what I'm trying to say. So they were obstacles.
In some ways, you could say collateral damage.
She definitely viewed it as that. Just a means to an end at this point. There was getting rid of that.
So Katie, what were the fan and TJ thoughts?
So
not that TJ isn't a fan, but
TJ's like part of the family.
Yeah, he's fam.
So TJ decided to keep it short and sweet this week, but he was just like, it was good. It honestly reminded me of 212. That's all I really have to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I love
see
it.
that.
Keep it short and sweet.
The families, let's see. So because we had family Reyes and Strands working together again.
Yeah, but after TJ and I had talked about the episode the next morning, it was just like, I was like, yeah, that was funny how a couple hours ago I was like, or last night it was like, I'm not sure. And then it was just funny. And like TJ's like, yeah, that bitch is crazy.
She is.
Y'all know it. Yeah. So other ones. I liked the flow of the episode. Everyone got fair screen time, but I am frustrated about TK. Which obviously
that's
relapse.
Pretty much the consensus.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
the
all
only
feel that way.
person we didn't really see was Judd. Like we only really saw.
Oh yeah,
him
he was only in that one scene in the beginning of the episode. But
well,
like,
the art studio. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, the trial too. Like when they were watching the video, he was there.
I mean, that's it. But like, I'm okay with that.
I'm
Because
okay
like,
with
at
that
first
just
people say-
because like this was supposed to be about like kind of like sort of like segueing for TK and Carlos in 13, which obviously is gonna be their episode, as it should be. Yeah, it's a good like transition. So yeah. Another one. I wonder how TK will deal with having to start back at day one. I feel like we got that like slightly, but I think they're gonna go into it in the next episode, which could possibly not still be day one, which I feel like it won't be. I feel like we'll be a little bit into it. It's definitely gonna be hard. I feel like it's gonna be triggering, especially since it not being his choice. Like we kind of talked about, and obviously we'll talk about it more when 13 rolls around. But
there's a bummer that there's okay, so it's a bummer that there's an extra week in between. I know for Katie, she's gonna happy about that because she's going on vacation that week. It's not on, but
which I would have still watched it even if I was on vacation, but it just worked out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person where I'm like, I don't care. Also, they wrapped this up perfectly, I have to say, because I was afraid of a cliffhanger. TJ and I actually talked about that in our life. We're like, oh god, I hope there's not a cliffhanger, and then we're held over for 2 weeks, like being like, what the hell?
I'm glad there wasn't.
Next one, I felt so bad for TK. He worked so hard for sobriety and it was just stolen from him. That is a perfect way to say all that because it was stolen from him.
I agree.
F you, Sadie.
F you, Sadie.
Yep.
Somebody said I was better than 911. And I don't, when the episodes that aired
time I don't
this
agree.
night, the episodes that aired this night, I don't like that because Lone Star wasn't better than 911. 911 wasn't better than Lone Star. There is no competition. I feel like they both had solid, amazing episodes. Like the specific night, we got Maddie's story, which we're gonna talk about next week actually. And you just can't compare them. Like we got really strong, powerful episodes, and you just
Yeah, strong in different ways, so it's really hard to compare them because
exactly. Like there are some times where I'm like, oh yeah, Lone Star was better than I won or something like that, but like I don't feel like this was one of those weeks where I can
On the
really
rare
say
occasion,
that,
one is better than Lone Star.
which barely
I
ever
haven't said that
happens.
many times, but
Yeah, I don't
I feel
really
like
love
if
that.
we've ever said that, it would only have been like during the Gwen episodes.
And then one of my friends actually said this, but she was like, very interesting. I love how nothing was spoiled till the end of the episode. And I actually like that. And then the last one says, I thought it was a great episode. Love seeing Tarlos on a call again. And domestic Tarlos working together. Well, TK tried. LOL. I was upset they got drugged, especially in TK's case. But if they really needed to do a relapse story, I'm glad it was because it happened to him rather than TK making the conscious choice to relapse. Sadie was a nutball, obviously, and I felt so bad for Nancy, but was glad in the end that the lady decided to stop the lawsuit before she died. That made me cry. Marjan was her usual badass self. Love seeing Carlos is dead again as well. Obviously we all have we us have our opinions on feeling bad for Nancy. Like if you guys want to feel bad for Nancy, we're not saying you shouldn't. We just don't.
We've just made our thoughts very clear.
Yeah. She made the conscious decision.
It's nothing against Brianna or anything like that. It's just
nothing even against Nancy as a character. Like her decision.
No, she just made a bad decision.
And she made the consequences, and of course we're glad that she's not going to lose her job. But like I just think it's very valuable to acknowledge that she screwed up, and that's why I think we've talked about so much this episode is just be like, you can completely be against what she did and like agree with the woman's being upset without being against Nancy or Brianna.
You can. I don't always agree with everything every character does.
Absolutely.
Like there's some things Owen does and I'm like, what are you doing? But I still love him at the end of the day.
As fans, like I will say this as I've noticed with fans, a lot of fans have a tendency to not be able to separate their feelings about an action a character does from the character themselves. So if they hate an action, they're going to hate the character, and vice versa. And so there's a lot of gray area. And unfortunately, fandom tries to make things into black and white. It's not. It's gray. Just like humanity. So there's that, But like the rest of the comment, yeah.
Yeah, I liked especially like how everything around TK was worded, and like I definitely agree with that. So the promo, I gotta say, we didn't get any Tarlos for a Tarlos episode, and I just want to refer back to Rodin's tweet, because Rodin's like me. Episode 13 should be called Tarlos. Lone Star promo team, who's Tarlos?
I know, right? Yeah, they put nothing in there, no hints, and then but we did get a Tarlos Tuesday picture from Ronan from that episode.
Rodin really knows how to like,
he's like,
because he previously tweeted like, what if like he's just like, oh, we didn't get Tarlos, don't worry, I'm gonna make up with it for those underwhelming promos with the Tarlos Tuesday. I'm like, Ronan, you're really looking out for this. Okay, when Ronan throws shade towards like whoever makes the promos, you're like in the right space.
Right.
Yeah, the promo reel is really nothing special. Like Owen, like they're at like this accident scene, and Owen's just like saying how like everything's extremely combustible, and Tommy's saying how like this lady's spine could be like basically sliced in half.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they kind of work at getting her out, and then Mateo finds a shoe. Like anybody missing a shoe, and then it's like a severed foot.
Yeah.
And so they figure there's another victim, and that's all that happened. And honestly, I didn't care one bit about this. I was like, maybe
That's
they're gonna do
underwhelming.
something with the promo. Like maybe something's gonna happen. And it was like this, and I was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't record my reaction to this. It would have been very underwhelming.
Right. Yeah. And all we know is that Carlos is going to meet TK's and AA sponsor.
Okay, I do want to talk about that a bit because people have asked me, like, who do you
Mhm.
think is TK's sponsor? And then so I'll be like, oh, you guys tell me your theories. And people will be like, people are throwing out the most outrageous things to me. And I'm just like, I have yet to react to everything, but like, so.
Are they trying to guess on existing characters?
Okay, so.
We haven't met the AA sponsor yet.
No, but people are
Right.
trying to guess who it is. And sometimes somebody was like, oh, maybe it's somebody in the 126. Nobody else in the 126 is a friggin' addict.
No. Sponsors are former addicts further on in their recovery.
Somebody
Exactly.
said, who did they say? I don't know. Somebody said, like, I know Michelle isn't coming back, but maybe it's her. I'm like, do you guys not remember her and Owen drinking tequila?
Precisely.
Somebody also brought up Sadie before this episode, and I'm like, they were also drinking vodka in the winter storm. Somebody literally said Gabriel.
No.
I'm like, also, I'm
No.
pretty sure he's been drinking on the show at least once.
He had margaritas at Carlos's house. Yes.
And also remember that TK has had a sponsor since he first came.
That's what I've been saying all over my
they
TikTok.
did not know each other. Like,
right.
y'all, we will have never met the AA sponsor. Is what
Yes.
My theory is it's either somebody Carlos had encountered on the job, like somebody he arrested, or it's an ex-boyfriend. Because why is he shocked?
Yes, because that's the synopsis. It says Carlos is shocked when he meets TK's AA sponsor.
It has to be like an ex or something.
I'm
hoping it's not, because that's a lot of drama.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Depending.
Yeah.
What if it's like I haven't seen you in so long?
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking the possibility that Carlos maybe arrested somebody. I was also thinking it could either be somebody Carlos works with or somebody in Carlos's extended family, like a cousin, an aunt, or uncle.
Too.
Maybe
that Carlos would have never imagined had even had an alcohol problem or a problem that he didn't know about.
Yeah, it's just like I think sometimes when I post things, some people just like want to say the first thing they can think of, and I'm like, maybe we should think this through a little bit.
Sometimes I think people must want to say the most ridiculous thing they think of, because
I know.
How can you think this? I mean, like, my personal thing, I don't want it to be an ex because it's a lot of drama. Though I would like to know a little bit of background on Carlos's relationships.
I don't think I don't think an ex could be like necessarily be a lot of drama. I just think we think it'd be a lot of drama. Depends how the relationship ended.
This is a drama show. They're gonna make it drama. That's my point. That's
right.
But compared to other shows I watch, it's not that dramatic. Like things that happen are really not that dramatic. It's not overly dramatic.
I hope so then. Like, I'm just hoping in this case, because that could get awkward. For TK, and not because that's his boyfriend's ex, but because of, by this point, the obviously the emotionally relationship you have with your sponsor. Like, that's a close bond. Like that's a lot of accountability. That's a lot, and that would be a little shady to be like, wait, what? Like, you guys know each other? Oh, there's a history. I'm not sure I'm saying it right how I'm thinking it, but I think that would be like a little.
In a way,
knowing anyone in your family or any of your relationships could be jarring because it may not feel like it's as confidential. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a conflict of interest.
Conflict, yes, thank you. Because I'm like, I'm not trying to say he's gonna get jealous or anything like
Right.
that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna be disappointed if that's what it is. But so that's why I'm
Yeah.
hoping like it's just
I mean,
some
I'm not
random person maybe
hoping
that-
for it to be an X, but I just think it might be.
it's not an impossibility, is what I will concede to say. There are only so
Yeah.
many people in the state of Texas.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to just say, like, Tiki's had the sponsor before we even met Carlos. So
Agreed.
yeah.
Exactly. So it's like
Yep.
it's not anyone who's going to be surprised.
Right.
That's why I'm saying why we haven't met them before.
Right. And exactly. And also it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous meeting. You don't know.
Anonymous.
There's
Yeah.
a reason for
what-
it. So it's not often that sponsors will meet family members unless there's a need for it. And in this case, there's a need for it.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
wonder
thinking it's
how
an
that
act.
comes up. I'm really curious. Like, if it's like, I
They
feel
might
like if
run
it's
into each other somewhere.
TK's choice, like, it's definitely like, yes. I just don't want, like, just, it's definitely not going to go to this extreme because it's not like this isn't the type of drama. But in other shows, like, I remember the specific scene in this other show where this person was an addict and they were like a doctor, and then of course this person who knew them from NA came in with somebody that had gotten hurt, and you know what happens? She outed her.
Yeah.
So that's exactly one of those things that I don't want to happen. Just
Yeah.
saying. I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm just saying, if you do that, I'm gonna be real mad.
Yeah. I'm excited to find out. Get some answers.
I've wanted to meet the sponsors in season 1, so I'm excited
Yeah.
about the storyline either way.
Yeah,
Like,
the fact that he's going to AA in general is great. So yeah.
the fact that they're acknowledging this when we've literally said for seasons, how many wish lists has it been on?
Yeah.
It's like
Finally.
about the damn time. Like, we finally got to know, like, somewhat.
Check that one off now. Finally.
We somewhat got like, we got like his background with his like drug history and his relapsing and that, and now we're getting this. I'm like, Lone Star, you're doing things right. You really are.
Oh yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can be sure to join our Discord server, and the link will be in the description of this podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Kitty, at Full of Tarlos on Instagram and at For Love of Tarlos on Twitter.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.